So, here we are, the very last episode of Season 1 of Ice Queendom. And I hope this thing doesn't get another season because this was not fun to go through in the slightest. And this episode is no exception. Watching it felt like a lesson in futility and frustration as the writers prove one last time that they do not have the skills needed to make something fun, let alone good. So the episode starts with Ruby and Weiss writing letters to home and recounting their adventure to their loved ones. From this we can see that Ruby is trying to be honest with her dad and Weiss is trying to impress her sister. Which isn't really a surprise because Ruby is honest to a fault and Weiss tends to cover her failings by downplaying them or playing up her achievements. In this case, she downplays Ruby's part in the rescue and not being a team leader. It then cuts to the next day where Blake and Weiss are resolving the last bit of major conflict between them. That being that Weiss wants Blake to solve problems with the team. Wait, this was done already in episode 3. Yeah, remember that? The moment where Weiss asked Blake to solve problems together when they're on the docks? I guess just like everything else, we'll bring it up and resolve it to make it look like we're actually developing these characters. But then it cuts back to Ruby writing her letter and then cuts again to Xion leaving Beacon. Xion tells the others about how their semblance grew and changed over time, starting off as an ability to read people's hearts, whatever that means, then becoming the plot device we all know and meh at. Xion uses this to explain that people have light and dark in them and that semblances can grow and change. So this dialogue is basically pointless and is a very basic understanding of people. Everyone has light and dark, good and bad in them. Yeah, no shit. But this also establishes that semblances can grow and change much earlier in the show than in the original, because that concept wasn't introduced until the newer seasons. Why is it being brought up here? No reason. No one had their semblances change or grow, so Xion talking about it was entirely pointless. Then Osmond wants to talk to Ruby and Blake alone. The conversation with Ruby can be boiled down to, what did you learn from all this? And did you notice your special eyes? And of course, Ruby says that she learned to rely on her teammates and that her friends make her stronger in battle. And for the sake of continuity, she does not remember her special eyes and Osmond is all vague about it. Meanwhile, Blake's conversation is a bit different. Apparently Osmond knows something about Blake's past, as he basically asks where she learned to fight and how she was able to pass the entrance exam so easily. But Blake says nothing and points out that solving the differences between humans and faunas isn't easy, even though that's exactly what Osmond wants to do. Honestly, it's actually a pretty good scene, and they actually make it so that the lighting is a little bit darker on both of the characters to try and heighten the tension of the scene and the question of will Blake get found out as a former member of the White Fang. Of course, it's far too little too late and is over very quickly. Now, Blake had told her friends to go on without her, but Weiss stayed behind. The two talk as they head to the cafe, and Weiss asks Blake if she has any intention of returning to the White Fang after graduation. Of course, Blake has zero intentions of doing so and tells Weiss as much, but Weiss also says that she intends on making things better once she has the power and ability to do so. After all, she can't do shit right now to change the Schnee Dust Company, but at least she has admitted that there is a dark side to the company. Weiss also says that when she does make her move, she'll need people like Blake. Again, this is a great scene, but all this could have happened earlier, and it could have been done by any other means, but instead we get it here. See, this only reinforces my point that the dream did not help this series. We cut over to Yang and Ruby at the cafe, where a rather strange conversation happens. Yang is teasing Ruby about how much she has changed since the first episode, which I like a lot actually, but Ruby takes it all completely seriously and starts going on about how she's going to make the team better and make lots of friends, and she thinks that Yang doesn't believe in her, which is so fucking weird, considering that Yang has been the most consistent person when it comes to supporting Ruby. This doesn't get resolved because then Sun shows up. Yeah, remember Sun? The character who's only been in like 1 or 2 episodes so far and has basically no impact on the story so far? Well, he's back. So now we're entering into the part of the episode that actually covers events in Season 2 of RWBY. So the last thing that happened from the original series was the fight at the dock. Now we're at the first episode of Season 2. See, in Episode 1, RWBY mentions that the break between semesters is 2 weeks. So everything that happens at this point is during that 2-week period. The girls plus Sun sit down and start talking, and the weirdest interaction happens. Weiss mentions that Pyrrha must have odd taste because she could have teamed up with anyone else to avoid all the drama with John. Ruby, remembering what happened back in Episode 2, looks sad and mentions that Weiss wanted to be on a team with Pyrrha. Then Yang makes a joke about trading Weiss for someone on Team Juniper, and then Ruby says that she is going to make the team really super awesome, and she won't let Weiss back in. Did I miss a page here? This whole scene is very poorly thought out and makes no sense. but apparently it was all a joke and they laugh about it. Whatever. I've already bitched enough about the bad writing. Let's just move on to Team Juniper. Apparently Pyrrha has spent the entirety of their break teaching John to be better at combat, and Nora and Ren were dragged along, apparently. Nora says that she wishes they could have fun with Team Ruby, and Ren says that maybe they should mention it to John. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Also, why are you here? If the two of you want to leave because you're bored or whatever, do so. Don't just sit around and bitch. Then Nora says that John is weird because he's weak, but says that he will protect his team. Nora, that's called being a hero. And John is putting in the effort to get better while you're sitting on your ass and watching and complaining. God, Nora, what happened to you? You used to be such a fun character. Okay, now it's time for them to do the beginning of Season 2. And do it worse! Just like in the original series, Ruby wants to have the last day of break be a special one where the whole team is involved. Meanwhile, Yang is goofing around with Nora by catching food in her mouth as Nora's flinging it at her. After Ruby gives a little speech about her best day ever plan, Yang makes a terrible joke and gets hit in the face with an apple for her troubles. Yang and Nora start a mini food fight, and Weiss notices that Ruby took her binder to make her plans. Weiss begins to protest and gets hit in the face with a cream pie by Nora. Ren chastises her, and Weiss suggests they do a beacon tradition, which is a food fight? Okay, now's a good time to start comparing the food fight from Season 2 and this mess. So, while the basics are pretty much the same, let's go over the key differences in the two scenes. For one, in the original, Ruby made a similar speech, but there were 3 real-life references in it. The first was her saying 7 minutes ago she had a dream, mixing the Gettysburg Address and Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, as well as saying I'm not a crook when Weiss asks if Ruby took her binder. Now, if you don't find that funny, I completely understand. I think it's hilarious because of how bad Ruby botches those lines, but if Ice Queendom is a good show, then they should have a better joke, right? Well, they cut out the joke instead. Also, they cut out an important scene for Weiss in Ice Queendom, which is ironic because the show is named after her. See, in the original, she had said that no matter what, they should spend the last day together as a team. Then she gets a pie to the face. Here it's cut out and robs Weiss of some needed character development. Also, the joke Yang makes that essentially starts the fight is in response to Ruby saying that she wants to start the semester with a bang, and Yang says that she likes to start things off with a yang. While this joke is a corny one, it makes sense in the scene as she's trying to lighten the mood as Ruby was trying to be somewhat serious. But here she says the same joke, but they cut Ruby's line about starting things with a bang, and then they have Yang repeat the joke and go, "Right, guys?" It just ruins the joke. On top of that, there is no school tradition of starting a food fight. In the original, they started a food fight because Weiss got it caught in the crossfire of Yang and Nora. There was literally no need for them to add this dumbass line. So, in both versions, the rest of the students get out of the way of the fight as it's going to get messy, and both teams even go so far as to use their semblances. The thing is, though, is that the original scene lasted for about 4 minutes, and it was a crazy action scene where everyone used food to emulate their abilities and weapons, ending with Ruby using her semblance to go so fast that she actually causes all the food to fly at Team Juniper. In Ice Queendom, the scene lasts for 2 minutes and does not show the kids' improvised weapons from food, does not show how the fight ends, and it does have a voiceover repeating the lines about darkness and light and crap from episode 1. By the way, I do like that dialogue, but the reason why I'm upset about it being here is that it doesn't fit. In the original episode, we got to see more of the villains that we would be dealing with for the season, and we got to see one of Sun's teammates, Neptune. But here the episode ends on an odd note. We have the happy-go-lucky, carefree food fight combined with the sinister dialogue that is also foreshadowing. So what the fuck am I supposed to feel here? Also, here's a question for you. Why the fuck did Ice Queendom feel the need to tackle the beginning of Season 2? We already know that this series wants to focus on stories not from the main show, so why bother with this? If the episode had just ended with them at the cafe or something, I would have said, well, at least they ended on a good note. But here we have this moment that makes me feel confused more than anything. This is why I say these writers are so awful. They can write good dialogue, they can write character development, and they can make good scenes, but they keep fucking things up. I don't even know how it's possible for someone to have enough talent to be good at something, but then be so bad at what you do that you can't make everything fit together coherently. Well, that's enough about this episode for sure, and thankfully this is the last episode. I have one more Ice Queendom video in the works that will be a more thorough breakdown of things, and I hope to have it be closer to the style of content I want to do going forward. I'm trying to be a little bit more analytical and a little less angry and ranty. While I know people enjoy that style of content, I definitely want to be someone who's more of a thinker as opposed to a ranter. But once that's done, I will not be doing Ruby's stuff again for quite a while. In fact, the next videos I do after Ice Queendom will be video game related, so stay tuned. Now I want to take this time to thank everyone for putting up with me and the learning curve I've been dealing with in regards to YouTube. I appreciate that all of you who watch these videos and like my stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm noticing on the analytics side, a lot of people are watching this stuff and aren't subscribed. So if you like the content, please do. I really want to try hard to grow this channel, and I can only do that with the support of people like you. But until next time, this has been Veiled Shadow. Fuck was that PBS messaging at the end?